Hi everyone. Today I had a special announcement to make. Specifically, my 7th book in my sex positivity series is live, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. We're essentially going to cover the basics, but if you want to know more than I'm able to go over in this video, simply refer to the links that I supply in the description. First, the initial announcement of my 7th book volume going live is put in a condensed form into my YouTube community post section. The 7th book in my sex positivity series is now live, the Practice and Preservation volume. It's a collection of essays about interviews with sex workers and unpaid labor and the LGBTQ community as a whole, showing sex workers as human while humanizing them in reclaimed language, reversing objection. Practice preserves praxis for future generations to study and learn from. And from there, I provide my Safer Work volume announcement, volume paratexts, and a Safer Work paratext sample, as well as some different images, including one of the cover model, the abstract, and some other material as well that are all covered in the volume. If we go to the announcement on my blog, specifically the Safer Work one, you can find even more information that isn't present within the YouTube community post, which, as I stated earlier, is abridged. Here it is still a relatively short post, but it is a bit longer. So if you scroll through it, you can get the full abstract, this middle portion here, largely being omitted from the community post. So if you want, you can pause this and read it in full, or go to the link yourself, which I will have in the description of this video. There's also a little bit more information about the volume length, the word count, page count, and number of unique images, further information about the paratexts more broadly through different book volumes and paratext compendiums, and a link to where you can download the book volume itself, the cover, the basic project details here, and at the bottom of the page, information about me as the author and my work more broadly and different qualities that it has, being anti-Zionist, anti-racist, anti-white supremacist, etc. And for anyone who feels so inclined, different ways you can donate to the work that I do on PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, etc. Those are all available on Linktree, which also will be in the description of this video. There are various links on this announcement page that you can click on and go to. Some of them go to my age-gated website, but some of them don't. And if you want to know which, you can just hover your mouse cursor over the link and it will pop up in the bottom of the screen, in the bottom left corner of the screen. If it says Next Movie Insights, it's on my blog. It's probably Safer Work. But if it says Vanderwart Art, that's my 18 and up website. If we go to Leftover Rice, this is a collection of paratexts for the book volume. This is the Safer Work version of that volume's paratextual compendium, and it has an opening summary as well as a little bit of YouTube censored eye candy, or rather eye candy that I have censored from the original version to be presentable on YouTube in theory. It's hard to say because it's all run by AI now, but for all intents and purposes, you're not going to get flashbanged by anything worse than a little bit of cleavage like this, or some models in bikinis, essentially. But if you scroll down here, you see the table of contents and other things that give you a little bit of an idea of what to expect if you read my book volumes, such as signposts, table of contents, the titles of different sections, summaries, page count, but also epigrams, table of contents, why did you leave the keys upon the table, from Chop Suey by System of a Down's Toxicity album. And in this specific compendium on my blog that's safe for work, you can go to any of these links. Again, hover your mouse cursor over them. This one goes to my blog, for example. And it will take you, in that particular instance, to The Price of Rice in China, or Capital in a Birdcage, which I have already read on YouTube. Definitely worth a look if you're interested. But there's a variety of different pieces like that, e.g. Remember the Fallen, an Ode to Next Benedict. Another piece that is originally from my blog. This one was specifically about Next Benedict, who was killed in early 2024. But there are various pieces basically tied to current events, geopolitics, essayists, activists, academics. There's a lot of different stuff that this book volume contains. Within these paratexts, you get a taste of that. And given that my book volume essentially focuses on humanizing sex workers, you will be exposed to a wide variety of those, e.g. Lilith May, one of my muses, who appears in said book volume alongside Maddie Minx. So there are, point in fact, dozens of new models in this book volume alone, the entirety of which includes hundreds. Well, not hundreds, over 100 models at this point. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but definitely into the triple digits. So if you are interested in that kind of thing and preserving the praxis of sex workers punching up against the state in Gothic communist ways, reading this book volume is the best place to start. It's my most recent book, but it's built on everything that came before. To that, if you want to download a copy of my latest book, which is Not Safe for Work, you can go to this link here, click on it, and download it in PDF form. So again, Maddie Minx on the cover, Volume 4, Practice and Preservation, and I strongly recommend downloading it in PDF form. If you are of the appropriate age, you can download the book and read it, or read it with a supervising adult, as I explain in the disclaimer. But if you download the PDF file, it's actually, I think, a bit easier to read, despite the fact that this book volume is composed of essays that largely already exist on my blog and on my website individually, and interviews with sex workers, Maddie or otherwise. It's such a large document, and there's so much to sift through, that I created this PDF file for people to be able to navigate quite quickly. Imagine it like Dracula's Castle from Symphony of the Night, with its waypoint system where once discovered you can jump around. Same idea here. So if we click on this, we're taken to the front page. Sex Positivity versus Sex Coercion or Gothic Communism, Liberating Sex Work Under Capitalism Through Iconoclastic Art, Volume 4, 5 of 5 from 0 to 4, The Practice Volume, First Edition, version 1.06, written and illustrated by me, with her original artwork and art for this book, made in collaboration with fellow sex workers and artists, edited and co-written by Bay Ryan. This book is strictly non-profit, not for resale, originally released on Persephone's 18+ website for purposes of sex, gender, and art education, transformation, and critique. So, the waypoint system allows you to jump around quite quickly. This book volume has thousands of pages, approaching 2,000. I forget the exact page number. It looks like it's 1,724 pages. That's a big book. And the first 200 or so pages are literally just paratexts before you even get to the table of contents. So here, front load series paratexts. Again, you can access that just by using the bookmark system that Adobe has. So if you open up a PDF file in Adobe Reader, which is probably how you're going to be reading a PDF file, you can use the bookmark system to jump around however you like. But also, there are different signposts that I have up front, and you can just go here. You can see all the paratexts. Before we get to the table of contents, you can click here and jump to that. I won't click on it just because there is some not safe for work stuff, but it'll teleport you straight to the table of contents. However, let's say you scroll down past all of this paratextual stuff, you can go to the price of rice in China, which is something that we've already looked at. Here. So, like I said, all of this material is on my blog and on my website already. The book volume, specifically the PDF file, is one that allows you to navigate quite quickly in ways that you can't do on my website and blog. And you can download it in a relatively small file. You can download it in a relatively small file. And from there, you can jump around through a relatively large book document. So the file size is small, but the book document is large, and the waypoints that I've provided through the Adobe bookmark system allow you to be able to navigate Dracula's castle with ease to uncover the secrets of Gothic communism. Last but not least, the work that I do through my book series alongside my friends. Gothic communism is really just a form of communism to practice in solidarity with other communists or reactionaries and moderates. Actual rebels in some shape or form on a spectrum of different practitioners, people who synthesize praxis through daily habits that develop communism by punching up against the state. That includes me and my friends, but it also includes people that I consume. So the stuff that we write about and exhibit in my book series that other people take part in is talking about the same stuff that other people talk about as well. So the struggle, such as it is, continues through the work that is done after my book is written and after essays are produced by people that I respond to after my book is written. My book having already responded to certain authors repeatedly, and me responding to said authors after I release each book that I create alongside my friends. One of those artists is Jessie Gender. Specifically today, I wanted to include a section at the end of this announcement to my latest book volume where we talk about a continuation of developing communism ourselves by engaging with bad actors. the same bad actors that Jessie Gender is talking about in their video, The Lies of Anti-Fascist Art. So I thought the best way that we could discuss the continuation of what I and Jessie are talking about is through a short response that I did to Jessie's video, which unto itself illustrates ipso facto the very idea of continuing the struggle after my book series that you can elucidate through the theory and the praxial ideas that are unpacked ipso facto by my friends and I in said book volume. In essence, communism is a continuum, something to continue ourselves by responding to media, to media, to media, mis en ambime, in perpetuity. All of that being said, let's respond to Jessie, or rather, let's read my response to Jessie here. First, this is the video by Jessie that I'm responding to. I really enjoy the work that they do. And incidentally, they also, in their video, The Lies of Anti-Fascist Art, which was released 4 hours ago, today, April 24th, 2026, they are actually responding to or talking about revolutionary thought, someone that I respond to in The Price of Rice in China, someone I've critiqued but also enjoy the work of. Something to keep in mind. In this video, Jessie Gender is talking about revolution is commodified in centrist ways versus in ways that are increasingly progressive. So the example of the increasingly progressive stuff is Andor and Mamdani in New York. So a fictional example and a real-life example, and they kind of exist on the same half-real stage, on stage and off. That's how I would describe it. This is what Jessie is touching on, and I specifically write in their comment section this larger comment. It's the same comment that I have in the community post that we're going to look at, so I'm not going to read it here, but I'm just showing you that it exists in their comment section. Though again, YouTube is funny about comments, and they don't necessarily appear right away. You might not see it. My comments tend to get buried. Not always approved by different authors. I will say Jessie is generally pretty good about responding to my stuff. Next, let's look at what I wrote and go over the entirety of it to cap off this video. Food for thought, Jessie Gender. Liberals are Zionists, fascists with more masks. No honor among thieves, but they'll act surprised when those they performatively oppose backstab them. As non-compete writes, as stated before, this dangerous tendency often surfaces precisely when working-class consciousness begins to challenge the hegemony of bourgeois liberalism. The mere consideration of extending an olive branch to a fascist figure like Musk signals deep-seated opportunism, which has historically been quite ruinous to liberal parties. The lesson from history is undeniable. Fascism must be opposed uncompromisingly. Those who would befriend fascists, whether through explicit alliances or opportunistic political maneuvering, must be resisted as strenuously as the fascists themselves, lest history's greatest calamities be repeated. It is an unfortunate fact that bourgeois liberals do not ultimately seek to build a world free of oppression, for all their pretty words. Rather, they cling to the capitalist political economy, which is built upon class division that brutalizes and dominates the majority of humanity. Fascism and liberalism are distinct ideologies with distinct political programs and institutions. They are not one and the same. They emerge from different material conditions, and they serve different factions of the ruling class who have conflicting views about how best to rule over the workers of the world. But in terms of function, they are one and the same. Both exist to serve and defend capital. Source: Third Wayism and the Liberal Fascist Bargain. However, under capitalist and to a lesser extent socialist realism, what I call state vampirism, we're never taught to envision communism as an on-the-ground grassroots thing. Instead, it's only ever sold to us in highly fake forms of Plato would call simulacrum, or copies of something that never was, a free democracy. The closest we get to something more honest is with stuff like Andor, which pulls no punches, minces no words about capitalism. I'm looking at you, the boys, but also the Matrix sequels. But media like that is exceptionally rare, a diamond in the rough. Frederick Jameson called it a constitutional inability to imagine utopia, one that requires elaborate strategies of misdirection to punch through the usual insular fabric, the shadows on Plato's cave walls. See Progress versus Utopia, or Can We Imagine the Future? However, his own overselling of sci-fi and postmodernism overlooked Gothic's potential, and corporations, which merge with states under fascism, i.e. Mussolini's corporatism, only commodify and sell Gothic as blind parody, Gothic pastiche that lacks Shelley's Promethean critique of capital and Frankenstein, the modern Prometheus. As I argue, we have to make Gothic media, or any media really, actively aware, not fumbling around blindly with allegory. Not to be Milton, being of the Devil's Party without knowing it, R.E. William Blake, nor Tolkien and similar authors gentrifying war through different problematic refrains, but actively subversive and rebellious ones that stymie state vampirism where it occurs, on stage and off in worker hearts and minds. For our revolutionary purposes, the devil is in the details. As a fixture of rebellion, Satan is out there waiting for us, calling for workers to rise up and take back what's rightfully ours, our bodies, our labor, our dignity, and our own devilish deals and deeds. Better to rule in hell than serve in heaven, but also the mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. We can do so consciously, to be of the devil's party and know it, unlike Milton. Source: The Finale. Speaking of Milton, Jamal Nafi writes, according to Teskey Gordon, it was Blake who expressed this view most empathetically by saying that Milton was of the devil's party without knowing it. He expressed this opinion chiefly in relation to the portrayal of Satan, who, according to him, has been depicted as a character possessing certain grand qualities worthy of the highest admiration. Other Romantic critics supported this view with great enthusiasm. Source: Milton's portrayal of Satan in Paradise Lost and the notion of heroism. Milton's darkness visible should become what I call deliberate, or conscious, to borrow from Marx. That means in ways that are intersectionally aware and solidarized, i.e. through teamwork that raises emotional Gothic intelligence accordingly, through intersections of class, culture, and race, that break capitalist realism upon ourselves by making Marx funny, sexy, and gay. See Gothic Communism Series Abstract. A holistically flexible, dialectically, materially, pedagogy of the oppressed that, working in poetic duality, tolerates uneven, variable ratios of privilege oppression that collectively punch up, walk away from almost together. My emphasis being unpaid labor, specifically sex work, with a queer BIPOC flavor, challenging TERFs, swerves, and tokenism at large. E.g., my latest book volume just released, which preserves the praxis of whores put to practice, i.e. using the very coordinates outlined above, i.e. intersectional solidarity. A neologism I coined, one meant to combat various forms of reductionism, class, culture, and race, i.e. by building on Marx's notion of class consciousness, combining class with culture and race consciousness, awareness, to raise emotional Gothic intelligence while synthesizing praxis. Abridged source paratextual documents. And then I have the work cited, Third Wayism and the Liberal Fascist Bargain, Progress versus Utopia, or Can We Imagine the Future, Alex Links, The Mysteries of Postmodernism, or Frederick Jameson's Gothic Plots, Milton's Portrayal of Satan, Gothic Communism, Safe for Work Series Promo, State Vampirism, Safe for Work Volume Announcement, Volume Paratexts, Safe for Work Version, and Safe for Work Paratext Sample. We've looked at all of those, but I will share these two links that we haven't. My book, Gothic Communism, series promo. This is, in essence, what Volume 7 belongs to. So think of J.K. Rowling having 7 Harry Potter books, right? Well, I'm a trans woman and I have 7 books of my own, but they're very different than Harry Potter, which I argue furthers capitalist realism. And if you want to know more about that, simply refer to my essay on Harry Potter here. I digress. My book series, Gothic Communism Series Promo, has a larger table of contents that you can sift through, including a series abstract, which ties to sex workers, nonprofit and funding. Sex positivity is nonprofit, entirely funded through donations and commissions. I am unemployed, and any money I make goes towards helping the people I work with, sex workers, such as Nyx here, one of my muses. And if you keep reading, you get to the series abstract. And the series abstract summarizes different ideas, but I'll just read this middle portion here. Specifically, sex positivity tackles how neoliberal state corporate proponents, i.e. official or stochastic cops, including TERFs, trans-exclusionary radical fascist feminists, and other standard to tokenized crypto-fascists, use canonical imagery created from coerced sex work to affect imagination as a socio-material process, i.e. using canon to generate complicated lingual-material arrangements that continuously exploit sexualized workers to widespread xenophobia under late-stage capital, i.e. capitalism sexualizes all workers to heteronormatively serve the profit motive, commonly through harmful Gothic poetics and BDSM theatrics, canonically exploits set arrangements to enshrine their abuse in abject cryptonymic ontological crypts, chronotopes that incarcerate, lobotomize, infantilize, and incriminate the public imagination, i.e. Mark Fisher's capitalist realism, or myopic inability to imagine a world beyond capitalism, even when capitalism is in decay, whose maxim regarding capitalist realism reads, "It is easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism." Simultaneously pimp and condemn sex-positive artists who seek to liberate sexualized workers through their own iconoclastic, ironically xenophilic praxis, camping the canon to escape its brutal historical materialism through their own creative successes, achieving praxial catharsis regarding systemic abuse and generational trauma. Sex positivity illustrates, similar to how oscillation is a key component of the Gothic, that Gothic communism is the oscillation between capitalism and anarcho-communism as dialectical material forces felt in Gothic language by real people. Oppositional praxis are the practical application synthesis of theory and dialectical material opposition. To combat nation-states as the ultimate foe, Gothic communism's chief aim is to be campier, thus sexier and funnier than Marx, i.e. camping his ghost to develop a holistically intuitive anarcho-communism that got through a widespread, collective, and solidarized emotional and Gothic intelligence awareness that recultivates the superstructure and reclaims the base through intersectional resistance and de facto extracurricular re-education, the wisdom of the ancients, or cultural understanding of the imaginary past endemic to this organizational process, and now one any particular group can monopolize through violence, terror, and monsters. Simply put, Gothic has that mood, that cool factor to do the trick, i.e. by subverting monstrous language, which normally dehumanizes workers and nature through popular stories furthering abjection, us versus them. And if you want to know more about that, tied to various people that I work with in regards to people that I am critiquing, be it Jessie Gender or Revolutionary Thot, you can go to my section on state vampirism, where I talk about the abjection process. State vampirism equals feeding through the state mid-abjection, be it openly capitalist or Marxist-Leninist, and their profit productivity motives. abjection meaning specifically something that state predation and revolutionary action both rely on to function, and something that goes hand in hand with a wide variety of other theories coming from Marx directly, but also other Gothic theorists that I synthesize with Marx through my own series, which draws upon Capital and various ideas such as the alienation of labor, workers from their labor, and the owner class from workers, but also ideas like the superstructure and the base. And I use it to critique various forms of Gothic media, such as Persephone's Soapsong Symposium. So this is a safer work version of my compendium on state vampirism. This is my series promo for Gothic Communism. This is my safer work promo for my latest book in Gothic Communism. And you can take all of that and apply it to Jessie Gender and revolutionary thought and anyone else who I critique. And when I say critique, I mean like academically. We're encouraging critical thought here, and sometimes I can be gentle, sometimes I can be rough. It really just depends. And Jessie Gender is an excellent essayist in their own right. I strongly recommend their stuff. I cite it repeatedly myself. And for that matter, revolutionary thought is also someone that I would strongly recommend, despite the fact that I critique them here in The Price of Rice in China, which, if you want to know more about, refer to that video on my YouTube channel, where I read this piece in full. I do that a lot on my YouTube channel. I like to not just develop or continue communism through my own work, but make it more accessible to people, including the visibly challenged people who are unable to read easily. You can listen to my voice, and I, Ariadne's thread, will guide you through the labyrinth to the Minotaur as something to confront. So yeah, this is just me responding to a variety of things while releasing my own book volume. I hope that you found it interesting. There's a lot of sources here that I give initially. Also check out Jessie's video, check out my book series, its paratexts, various criticisms that I have within it, such as of Chinese socialism, of other gender nonconforming comrades like revolutionary thought, an acknowledgement of various people martyred for the cause. There's all kinds of different things. So I hope that you find that useful. There are plenty of resources. There are resources within resources. There are book volumes that you can download for free. There's all kinds of good stuff. So all of that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you find this useful. If you are interested in leaving a response, you may. Every bit of feedback helps as long as it's constructive. But even the non-constructive stuff, I usually turn into some kind of like object lesson. I treat it like de facto peer review. So if you leave a nasty comment, there is a chance that I might use that in a future essay. You never know. Though I'm going to be very explicit in how I cover it. So if you want to be made immortal in a way that exposes you as a fascist, reactionary, moderate, what have you, you can tempt the fates, but I will show you no mercy. All of that being said, thank you for watching, and I hope that as we continue to move forward in the face of fascism as a rising problem, all of this can prove useful to you. Until next time, stay safe out there, comrades, and good luck.